Interviewing Marilyn Smitley tonight about McNulty's Grocery and Meat Market. Hey Marilyn, can you tell us where the business was located and about some of the people that work there?
The business was located at 514 Archer Avenue, which at the present time is Curves for women. It was opened in 1942 by my aunt and uncle, Golden and Lucille McNulty. And they ran the business together until 1947 when my uncle passed away. And at that time, then my grandma stepped in and helped my aunt with the store. So it was pretty much a family-run business the whole time that she was in the store. So my mother helped in the grocery store from time to time, and my sister and brother, when they were old enough, they were attending North Elementary School, and after school they would go into the grocery store and help stock the shelves, the canned goods, whatever was easy for them to get on the shelves. So, and then they also had, my uncle, his vehicle, he had a vehicle which they had for delivery service, which I thought was kind of unique because there weren't too many stores that did deliver, but he did have a delivery service, so he also did that. But as I say, it was solely run by the family, by her family. So,
what was your competition? What was the grocery store's competition?
Actually, at that time I was trying to remember. I can remember at least 11 grocery stores in the city of Marshall at that time. And each one had their own clientele. Competition, I don't even remember that being a factor. It just seemed like the neighborhood stores, that the neighborhood people would go to those stores. My aunt stayed open late on a Saturday night. And in fact, she didn't really have any certain hours. She just stayed, and when people quit coming, then she would close. But a lot of the country people would come in on Saturday, and they would do their trading. And I think that goes back to the days when people brought their products in, their eggs, their garden produce, and traded for groceries. So they came in and did their trading on Saturday, so that was always a big day. But as I recall, it was a lot of the country people that traded in her store. Well, a lot of local people, and being directly across from the courthouse, people that went to the courthouse also frequented her store because they might go in for a bottle of Coca-Cola, which of course at that time was in a glass bottle, and we had the metal cases that you took the Coca-Cola or whatever drink it might be, and then they had the opener on the side of the case where you open your pop. So that's something that I remember. We don't see those anymore, of course. It's totally different. But like I said, it was just mostly, each store had their own clientele, I would say, and there wasn't. I don't recall a lot of competition among the stores at that time.
Did they have fresh produce, and where did some of their items from the store come from?
Okay, I recall a lot of her merchandise came right from Terre Haute. Holland and Company, her canned goods came from there. I remember that. There was the Home Packing Company, which had an explosion at one time. I don't know if anyone has mentioned that, but they were meat packing, and she bought a lot of her meat from them. I remember she had Sunbeam bread in her store. The produce, there was a produce company in Terre Haute. I don't recall the name at this time, but a lot of her produce came from Terre Haute. So it was pretty much local, what she sold in her store. She had fresh meat, which my uncle and even my father went in at one time after my uncle passed away. My father went in and helped cut meat, and my aunt also learned to do it. So they had fresh meat, and lunch meats, of course, and cheeses at that time were all sliced right there on the spot. We had no prepackaged cheese or lunch meat like we do today. So I try to remember if someone from the country maybe brought some, offhand I don't recall seeing it, but I'm sure there were country people that brought in things to her store, but I specifically can't name anyone or recall what, so but like I say, it mostly came from the Terre Haute area. So,
Those noises pick up really easily, and so I forgot to turn the fan on. Sorry about that.
Oh, why did it go out of business, or why was it sold? What was the kind of the end of the business?
that's a good question. It's a very interesting story. The fellow that delivered the Coca-Cola products to her grocery store had lost his wife, and of course my aunt had lost her husband. So there was a romance started, and so when that happened and they decided to get married, then they both had jobs in another area in a state hospital. Actually, it was Mantino. It was a state hospital. So at the time, she rented the building. The building did not actually belong to her. And so she just disposed of the merchandise that was in her store. And they were married, and they moved on to another area. So it was a fondness for one another that was the end of the grocery store. So I believe, let's see, they were married in 1957. So that was when the store was closed. And as I recall, it turned, someone else rented it or bought the building, and it became like a dollar store years ago. But I don't think there was anything else in the store. It was called a dollar store of some kind after she vacated the building. So,
Do you remember any people, does anyone stand out in your mind? Anyone that frequented the business or that came there once or twice?
well, next door was Western Auto, and that was owned by Paul and Juanita Walker, and they lived upstairs. There was an apartment, and that was their home, and they had twin sons, and of course they lived there also, and until they were out of school. So that was pretty handy. All she had to do was walk next door. So they were probably the number one that sticks in my mind as being, the frequent customer. But the country people that came to town will always be in my mind because I still today remember some of those families, and some of them still have relatives living that came in, especially on Saturday because that was the day that the country people came. Those people were really kind of like family because, they came in every week and really got to know them well. In fact, we even went to some of their homes for meals. At that time, the downtown area and the stores, it was really kind of a social place because that's where you saw everyone. There weren't the activities like we have today within the school system and even the community. So this was really the way to socialize was in the stores. So, as I say, there were country people that came to her store. There were a lot of them. I got to know them pretty well, and they're the ones that I remember very well. But the lady, as I said, in the Western Auto, Juanita Walker, was a frequent customer and a very, very, very dear person. And I'd say that would probably be it.
Now, you sort of touched on this, but I was going to ask you, what's the difference between Marshall's downtown and Marshall's food establishments then and now?
Well, it was very vital at that time. There was so much activity. Of course, we had so many different kinds of stores. Of course, with Walmart that we have now, they sell a lot of the products that were the specialized stores that we had downtown. I was trying to remember today on the block at my aunt's grocery store, there was an ice cream store, and then we had the Western Auto. There was a hardware store, there was a Firestone store, we had Blankenship's drugstore, and Grabenheimer's store was on that block. So every store had some business, either grocery or, well, of course, we just have it all right here downtown. Anything you needed, clothing, something for your vehicle, whatever, it was here. We had several eating establishments. Of course, Tom's stands out in my mind because I was there many, many times. And it was a wonderful place to eat. They had wonderful food. Their homemade rolls, their grilled tenderloins were wonderful. And of course, the homemade mayonnaise they made was always a hit with everyone. I recall the Toomey's had an eating establishment on the southeast corner of the courthouse square. And the Rademacher store, I remember that also in that same block. And of course, the Candy Kitchen on Archer Avenue was a favorite spot with people at that time, especially the teenagers. And I, of course, went there many, many times. There were just a lot of, Marshall was very much alive at that time with just anything you could possibly want. It was right here, right downtown. So I have a lot of pleasant memories of spending a lot of time downtown, especially with my aunt having a grocery store. We were there a lot. And the bandstand being right across the street with something going on there, we would just sit on the front porch of my aunt's store and we could watch whatever activity was going on. So, as I say, there were several eating establishments and the specialized, like the little ice cream stores. The drugstores, of course, at that time had their little soda fountains, which the best sodas in the world were at those soda fountains. We had the two drugstores, Martin's drugstore. But at that time, I don't believe it was Martin's drugstore when I was a young person. I'm not sure exactly when they came to town, but Blankenship's drugstore was Keeper's at one point in time, and I can remember that. And then Omer Blankenship had the store, and like I said, they did have the soda fountain, and they were the best sodas I've ever tasted. So that really stands out in my mind. Those were the places that I probably remember best because those were the places that I have, frequented. About what I can recall.
All right, thank you very much. We look forward to having this interview be part of our Marshall's Oral History and the Key Ingredients Project. So thank you very much, Marilyn.
Thank you.